that betrayal still burns in your chest for a reason, because Allah wants you to hear this. The same ones who pretended to love you, the ones who plotted in silence, will one day be unmasked, not by you, but by Him. And when it happens, their downfall will heal your wound. Allah lets the mask fall when you're ready. The truth is, no mask lasts forever. A smile can hide envy. A handshake can hide betrayal. A kind word can hide poison. But none of it lasts before Allah. You see, people are skilled at pretending. They learn how to laugh at the right moment. They know how to speak like a friend. They know how to look like family. They know how to sound sincere, even when their heart is filthy. And you believe it, because your heart is pure. You believe it, because you don't know how to act with double faces. You don't know how to laugh while hating. You don't know how to embrace while plotting. That is not your nature. That is not who you are. So, you fall into their game, not because you're foolish, not because you're naive, but because Allah covered their reality from your sight. Allah hid the poison so that your soul would not break before its time. Think of this. If Allah had shown you their true face the first day, what would you have done? You might have collapsed in shock. You might have lost trust in everyone. You might have drowned in paranoia, unable to see goodness in anyone again. That would have been more harmful than the betrayal itself. So Allah, in His mercy, said, "Not yet." He let the mask stay on. He let you think they were real. He let you walk with them. He let you eat with them. He let you laugh with them, all while protecting your heart from seeing what it wasn't strong enough to bear. But then, the day comes, and their mask begins to crack. It never happens randomly. It never happens without Allah's will. It happens with divine precision. Maybe it slips in anger, one word spoken too quickly, one insult that slips from their lips, one joke that cuts too deep. And in that moment, you see the heart behind the smile was never love. It was envy. Or maybe it slips in silence. They no longer cheer when you succeed. They no longer smile when you're blessed. Their eyes grow darker. Their presence grows colder. And you notice the silence is louder than any word. Sometimes it slips in public. When others are watching, they expose themselves. What they whispered in private, they suddenly spill without realizing. And the crowd sees it too. The lies they held against you fall apart, piece by piece. And in that moment, you finally understand. It wasn't your weakness that blinded you. It wasn't your stupidity that made you trust. It was Allah's mercy delaying the reveal. Because now, when you see it, you don't collapse. You don't drown. You don't lose trust in everyone. Instead, you feel clarity. You feel strength. You feel like Allah just removed a knife from your back before it pierced too deep. That is Allah's timing. Never early, never late. Always the perfect moment. So don't curse the years you spent not knowing. Don't regret the time you invested. Don't think, how could I have been so blind? You weren't blind. You were protected. Allah writes the moment of exposure like He writes the sunrise. He decides the exact second when the mask falls. Not a moment sooner, not a moment later. And when it happens, you realize, this was never betrayal. This was never loss. This was rescue. This was protection. This was Allah saying, now you're ready. Now you're strong enough. Now I can show you the truth. When a mask falls, it doesn't just reveal their face. It reveals Allah's plan. It reveals His timing. It reveals His mercy. Because think about it. If people could hide forever, how would the oppressed ever find relief? If liars could stay disguised forever, how would the betrayed ever heal? If envy could wear a smile forever, how would the innocent ever know? Allah does not allow injustice to live in secret forever. He might allow it for a time. He might allow it to stretch longer than you wished. But He never allows it to last beyond His wisdom. And when it breaks in a way that cannot be denied. Even if you want to excuse them, you can't. Even if you want to defend them, you can't. Even if you want to say, maybe they didn't mean it. Allah makes it so clear that your soul has no choice but to accept the truth. This is not cruelty. This is mercy. Because He knows how soft your heart is. He knows how easily you forgive. He knows how long you hold on. And He knows that sometimes the only way to make you let go is to let the mask shatter in front of your eyes. So it shatters, and the sound of it hurts, but the relief of it saves you. Remember this: the mask doesn't fall when you're weakest. It falls when you're strongest. It falls when your heart has grown roots in Allah. It falls when you are finally able to stand alone without collapsing. It falls when you have learned to lean on Allah, not on people. That is why timing matters. That is why Allah delays. Not because He doesn't care, not because He forgot, but because He loves you too much to let the truth arrive before you're ready to hold it. Look back at your life. Haven't there been times when you said, if I had known this earlier, it would have destroyed me? Haven't there been moments when you realized the delay itself was protection? That's how Allah works. Silent, precise, merciful. And when it happens, when the mask finally falls, something else happens too. Your heart finally learns to separate appearances from reality. You finally learn that not every smile is love. Not every handshake is friendship. Not every word of praise is sincerity. But here's the beauty. Allah doesn't let this lesson harden you into bitterness. He lets it soften you into wisdom. You don't become cruel. You don't become suspicious of everyone. You simply become more careful, more trusting in Allah, more alert to signs, more awake in a world full of masks. That is growth. That is maturity. That is spiritual clarity. So when their mask falls, don't cry only over the loss. Smile at the protection. Because what really fell wasn't just their mask, it was the illusion that you needed them. And what really rose in that moment was your reliance on Allah. Exposure is protection, not humiliation. When Allah exposes someone's truth, your first thought might be, why did this have to happen? Why did this betrayal become so clear? Why did it have to end this way? But you must remember, when Allah reveals, it is not humiliation for you, it is protection. Think of a burning house. From the outside, it looks beautiful. The walls shine, the windows sparkle, the roof stands tall, and so you step inside with trust. But what you cannot see is that the fire is already crawling through the beams. The smoke is already filling the ceilings. The collapse has already begun. If Allah leaves you inside that house, you will burn with it. So what does He do? He shows you the flame. He lets the smoke sting your eyes. He makes the cracks in the walls so clear that you have no choice but to walk away. And as painful as it feels, you must know that is not humiliation, that is rescue. When someone's mask falls, you might think, people will laugh at me for trusting them. But in reality, Allah is protecting you from a deeper laugh, the one that would have come if you kept building your future with someone who never intended to stand with you. Exposure hurts, yes, but it hurts like surgery. It cuts, but it saves. It bleeds, but it heals. It scars, but it protects you from something worse. Imagine carrying a cup of poison while thinking it's water. You lift it to your lips, ready to drink, and just before you take a sip, someone slaps it out of your hand. The cup shatters. The liquid spills everywhere, and you're angry, confused, hurt. But then you see what was inside. It was never water, it was poison. That slap was mercy. That break was protection. That loss was life-saving. That is what Allah does when He exposes someone's true intention. He spills the cup before you drink it. He shatters the plan before you step into it. He breaks the illusion before it breaks you. And here's the part that hurts the most. Sometimes you were ready to give them everything. Your time, your loyalty, your trust, your love, your future. You were ready to stand by them through storms. But Allah knew if you poured all of that into them, you would lose yourself. So He cut the rope. He exposed their heart. He allowed you to see their true colors, not because you were weak, but because you were valuable. It is not humiliation to be protected. It is not shameful to be saved. It is not disgrace to be redirected. The disgrace belongs to the one who carried poison behind a smile. The humiliation belongs to the one who lived double-faced until Allah Himself tore away their mask. And you are not disgraced. You are rescued. You are saved. You are carried out of the fire before the house collapses. So never mistake exposure as punishment. Never see it as Allah embarrassing you. See it as Allah shielding you. See it as Allah saying, "My servant, I love you too much to let this continue. I will not allow you to keep trusting poison." When Allah removes someone from your life by exposing them, your first reaction is almost always pain. You feel your chest tighten. You replay the memories. You ask yourself, was it all fake? Did none of it mean anything? But here is the secret. Allah doesn't waste your experiences. Even the moments that were real to you, even if they were fake to them, were building something inside you. They were training your heart to recognize truth from lies. They were preparing you to value sincerity more deeply than ever before. So yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels like loss. But what is loss when Allah calls it protection? What is pain when Allah names it mercy? Think of the child who wants to touch fire. They see the glow. They see the light. They reach out their hand with trust. But the parent pulls them back. Even if the child cries, the child thinks it's cruelty. But in truth, it is the deepest love. This is what happens when Allah exposes someone. You thought they were light. You thought they were warmth. You thought they were safe. But in reality, they were fire, and fire burns, even if it looks beautiful from a distance. So Allah pulled you back, and you cried. You screamed. You asked, "Why, Ya Allah? Why did you let me get this far only to lose them?" But He whispers back, "I didn't let you lose. I saved you before you burned." Exposure is never random. It doesn't happen because people slipped by accident. It happens because Allah decided, enough. It happens because Allah wrote the exact moment the curtain would fall. Sometimes it happens privately, between you and them. Sometimes it happens publicly, in front of many eyes. But however it happens, it is not shame for you. It is Allah proving His love for you. And here's something else to remember. If Allah hadn't exposed them, you would have kept giving. You would have kept pouring yourself into an empty vessel. You would have kept sacrificing for someone who was secretly working against you. How long would that have lasted? How much of yourself would you have lost? Allah could not allow that. So, He let the truth burst out. Not gently, but clearly, so that you could not mistake it, not even for a second. You see, Allah doesn't just protect your future. He also protects your dignity. Because imagine, what if you had built everything with them? What if you had tied your destiny to theirs? What if you had walked 10 more years beside them, only for their betrayal to show at the end? The humiliation would have been unbearable. But Allah, out of His mercy, shortens your wound. He cuts it earlier. Yes, it stings. Yes, it bleeds. But it saves you from years of deeper pain. That is why exposure is protection. It's not humiliation, it's dignity preserved. It's not punishment, it's a door closed before disaster. It's not rejection, it's redirection. So when someone's truth comes out, whisper this to yourself: Ya Allah, thank you for showing me what I could not see. Thank you for breaking what would have broken me worse. Because sometimes being saved looks like being left, and sometimes protection looks like loss. But in reality, it is Allah carrying you away from harm, even when your heart still wants to stay. The Qur'an stands with the wronged. Allah never leaves the wronged alone. Your tears may be hidden from people, but they rise to Him louder than screams. Your pain may be mocked by people, but with Allah it is honored like prayer. Your silence may look like defeat, but to Allah it is a testimony of your patience. The Qur'an does not ignore the betrayed. It does not skip over the oppressed. It does not brush away the wounds of the forgotten. Instead, it lifts them, it comforts them, it speaks directly to them. Allah says, Allah does not like the public mention of evil except by one who has been wronged. 4-148. Do you see what this means? It means you are not wrong for feeling the pain. It means you are not sinful for speaking of your wound. It means when injustice bursts into your life, Allah Himself opens the door for you to seek justice. But notice the beauty in this verse. Allah says He does not like evil being spoken about, except when it is by the one who was wronged. Why? Because sometimes truth must be spoken to protect the innocent. Sometimes lies must be unveiled to protect the future. Sometimes silence becomes a weapon in the hands of oppressors, and breaking it is the only way to stop them. Yet even then, Allah sets boundaries. He does not say, speak to harm. He says, speak if you were wronged. Speak to lift the veil of lies. Speak to clear your name. Speak to protect your dignity. This is Allah standing with the betrayed. This is Allah saying, I see you. I know what they did, and I permit you to raise your voice because you were wronged. And notice something else. Allah ties this permission only to the one wronged, not to the gossipers, not to the jealous, not to the bystanders who enjoy scandal. Only the one wronged is allowed to speak, because their voice is not from malice, it is from survival. Your whispers are not wasted. Your cries in sujood are not lost. Your silence, even when heavy, is not ignored. The Qur'an records them. Allah Himself responds to them. How many nights did you sleep with a heavy chest, wondering if anyone would ever know what they did to you? How many days did you walk with your head lowered while they wore a mask of innocence? How many times did you ask yourself, will justice ever come? And then you read this verse, and you realize justice is not delayed. It is written, Allah loves silence in most matters. He loves concealment. He loves protecting dignity. But when you are wronged, He gives you a special allowance. He gives you the right to speak because your voice deserves to be heard. That is not small. That is not casual. That is divine recognition. Think about this carefully. If the Qur'an gives you permission to speak when wronged, what does that mean? It means your silence is not forced. It means your dignity is not tied to being quiet. It means Allah knows your pain needs a voice, and He allows that voice to rise. But it also means something greater. It means Allah is publicly standing on your side. He is saying to the world, this servant of mine was wronged, and I will not leave them voiceless. What more honor could you want? The Qur'an itself carries your case. The book that will outlast time itself has a verse written with you in mind. It is as if Allah carved your pain into revelation so you would never feel abandoned. And here's the beauty. When Allah gives this permission, He does not tie it to power. He does not say, only the strong may speak. He does not say, only the wealthy may defend themselves. He does not say only the leaders may be heard. He says the one who has been wronged. That could be a child. That could be a widow. That could be a servant. That could be the quiet one in the room who never fights back. In the eyes of people, they are small, but in the eyes of Allah, their pain is enough to bend the heavens. Never forget the Qur'an was revealed in a world full of injustice. The weak were crushed, the poor were silenced, the voiceless were mocked, and yet Allah spoke for them. He revealed verses that lifted them. He revealed words that gave them dignity. Do you see how personal this is? Your betrayal, your pain, your humiliation. Allah already gave you a verse before it even happened, as if to say, when this moment comes, do not fear. I already wrote your defense. So when you feel silenced, remember, Allah never silenced you. When you feel invisible, remember, Allah saw you first. When you feel alone, remember the Qur'an is already standing with you. And the verse doesn't stop there, because Allah immediately follows by reminding us that He does not love arrogance. He does not love boastfulness. He does not love those who rise by humiliating others. Why? Because He wants you to know the difference. Your voice as the wronged is not arrogance. Your cry for justice is not pride. It is survival. It is dignity. It is worship when it is tied to truth. But their lies, their mockery, their arrogance, that is what Allah hates. That is what He promises to strip away. So every time you feel embarrassed that their betrayal became public, whisper to yourself, this is not humiliation. This is Allah's justice. This is Allah lifting my voice when I could not lift it myself. And every time you wonder why Allah exposed them at this time, remember, He chose the moment. He wrote the script. He decided when the mask would fall. And He linked your story to His book so you would know. Justice was always on your side. Hypocrisy always cracks. A hypocrite can polish their mask for years. They can laugh with you. They can pray beside you. They can carry the language of loyalty on their tongue. But hypocrisy is not strength. It is weakness dressed in costume. The Prophet ﷺ warned us so clearly. When they speak, they lie. When they promise, they break it. When trusted, they betray. Notice something. He did not say if they do these things. He said when. It is inevitable. It is not a matter of chance. It is only a matter of time. Why? Because lies are like cracks in glass. At first, the glass looks whole. It looks beautiful, shiny, flawless. But one small crack begins, and then, day by day, the crack spreads. It widens. It multiplies, until finally, the entire surface shatters in front of everyone. This is hypocrisy. It cannot remain hidden forever, because hypocrisy is not truth, and truth always rises above falsehood. At first, people might believe them. Their words sound sweet. Their actions look convincing. Their smile feels real. And you, with your soft heart, believe them. You give them your trust. You hand them your loyalty. You even pray for their success. But while you are sincere, they are hollow. While you are building, they are pretending. While you are offering your heart, they are calculating their next lie. Still, Allah is not blind to this. Allah is not silent about this. He lets them pretend only long enough to expose themselves. Think of Pharaoh. He declared himself a god. He controlled his people with fear. He thought his lies would stand forever. But what happened? The sea swallowed him. And even in death, Allah made his body a sign for all time. Hypocrisy cracked. Arrogance drowned. Truth stood tall. Now think of the hypocrites at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. They sat in the masjid. They spoke like believers. They walked like companions. but their hearts were rotten. They mocked in private. They schemed in silence. They lied without shame. And what did Allah do? He exposed them in the Quran. He made them eternal examples. The same men who thought they could hide are now recited in every prayer across the world. Hypocrisy cracked. The truth of their lies was written forever. So what makes you think the hypocrites in your life will succeed? What makes you think their cracks will never spread? What makes you think their lies will stand taller than the word of Allah? No matter how careful they are, they will slip. No matter how polished their words, they will contradict themselves. No matter how convincing their mask, it will tear at the edges. And when it does, you will see what you always suspected. Sometimes the crack shows in anger. They lose their temper and their true heart spills out. Sometimes the crack shows in jealousy. They cannot hide the bitterness in their eyes when you succeed. Sometimes the crack shows in arrogance. They speak too boldly and their mask slips. Sometimes the crack shows in silence. They can't celebrate your blessings and their absence exposes them louder than words. And you finally understand, not because you uncovered them, but because Allah allowed their own hypocrisy to destroy itself. That is the destiny of every hypocrite. Their lies eat themselves alive. Their betrayal poisons their own soul. Their mask becomes heavier until it suffocates them. And the beauty is this: you don't have to fight them. You don't have to chase evidence. You don't have to spend your life proving who they are. Allah will let their cracks grow wide enough for everyone to see. Their downfall will be written by their own hands. So remember this truth: hypocrisy is not power. It is weakness that delays its collapse. And the day will come when it collapses loudly, publicly, undeniably. The hardest part about dealing with a hypocrite is the waiting. You see their smiles, you hear their words, you feel the unease in your chest, and you wonder, will the truth ever come out? It will, because Allah promised it would. Hypocrisy is a seed planted in darkness, but the Quran says, Allah brings all things into light. No matter how deep the soil, no matter how heavy the cover, no seed can resist breaking through the surface. And when hypocrisy breaks the surface, it is not green with life, it is black with rot. At first, people might defend them. They might say, no, they're good. You're misunderstanding them. They might say, don't be so harsh. Everyone makes mistakes. And you stay silent, carrying the heaviness inside, because only you feel the full weight of their betrayal. But then Allah decides the time has come, and He lets them expose themselves. One lie too many, one promise too broken, one trust betrayed too loudly, and suddenly the same people who defended them now see clearly. This is Allah's mercy to you, because if you exposed them, they would call you bitter. If you spoke against them, they would call you vengeful. But when Allah lets them expose themselves, no one can deny it. It is not your effort. It is their own cracks spreading until they can no longer hide. And this is the miracle. Hypocrites always write their own downfall. They lie, and then they lie again to cover the first lie. They make promises, and then forget the promises they already broke. They betray, and then try to paint themselves innocent. But hypocrisy is messy. It cannot hold itself together, and slowly it unravels. Think about it. Truth is simple. It does not need memory. It does not need rehearsal. It does not need polish. Truth stands by itself. But lies? Lies are heavy. They demand rehearsal. They demand memory. They demand constant fixing, constant repairing. And no liar can carry that burden forever. So, eventually, their story doesn't match. Their actions betray their words. Their mask falls out of place. And Allah makes it so obvious that even they cannot deny it anymore. Do not mistake the delay as Allah's neglect. Do not think silence means Allah approves. The delay is only Allah giving them rope. The silence is only Allah letting their cracks spread wide enough to expose themselves without your effort. Remember, Allah exposed the hypocrites of Medina. They thought they were clever. They thought they could sit in the masjid and hide among the believers. They thought their lies were safe in whispers. But Allah revealed verses in the Qur'an that unmasked them forever. So, what about the hypocrites in your life? Do you think they are stronger than those exposed in Revelation? Do you think their lies are safer than the lies Allah already crushed? Do you think their masks are thicker than the masks torn apart by the Qur'an? Never, because Allah is just. Allah is watching. Allah is patient, but He is not blind. And here is something to hold in your heart. When the crack finally widens, it is not just justice, it is mercy. Because if hypocrisy stayed hidden forever, how many more years would you have wasted? How much more of your heart would you have poured into someone who was never real? How many more nights would you have spent defending them while they secretly laughed at you? So when the cracks spread, even though it hurts, whisper to yourself, "This is mercy. This is Allah freeing me from chains I could not see." Hypocrisy is a prison, but it is not your prison. It is theirs. And when the door breaks, it is not you who is trapped, it is them. And slowly, you will notice something strange. They become tired. Their lies drain them. Their smiles look forced. Their words lose their weight. Their mask becomes heavier than their face, until finally it collapses. That collapse is not your humiliation. It is their own betrayal catching up to them. It is their cracks shattering into pieces in front of the world. It is Allah proving that no lie, no matter how polished, survives forever. Justice arrives without your effort. You spend so much of your life thinking you need to prove yourself, that you need to defend your name, that you need to chase after those who wronged you, that you need to gather proof, fight back, argue, shout, and demand justice. But the truth? Justice does not come from your effort. It comes from Allah. How many times have you tried to explain yourself to people who already decided not to believe you? How many times have you wasted words on ears that were deaf to truth? How many times have you cried trying to clear your name, only for your tears to be mocked? And then, one day, without you lifting a finger, the truth came out. Not because of your fight, not because of your power, but because Allah chose the moment. This is the mercy of your Lord. He is Al-Adl, the just. He is Al-Haq, the truth. He is Ash-Shahid, the witness. And when He writes justice for you, no one can erase it. Sometimes Allah lets the liar stand tall for a while. Sometimes He lets the betrayer laugh for a season. Sometimes He lets the hypocrite look victorious. Not because He approves, not because He forgot, but because He is writing a bigger story. You see, if you rushed to expose them, maybe no one would have believed you. If you fought with your own hands, maybe they would have twisted the story against you. If you shouted, maybe they would have called you bitter. So Allah waits. He waits until the perfect moment, until their own lies catch up to them, until their own cracks spread wide enough for everyone to see, until justice arrives with such precision that no one can deny it. And the beauty? You don't have to exhaust yourself chasing it. You don't have to sacrifice your peace trying to fight for it. You don't have to dirty your hands lowering yourself to their level. Allah does it for you, quietly, silently, perfectly. Justice is like the sunrise. You can't force it to come faster. You can't pull it up with your hands. You can't command the light. All you can do is wait. And when the time is right, it rises, and no one can stop it. This is how Allah brings justice. not through your anger, not through your revenge, but through his timing. Think of Yusuf, alayhi salam. His brothers lied. They threw him in a well. They sold him as a slave. For years, their lie stood. For years, Yusuf carried the wound. For years, injustice seemed to win. But then, what happened? Allah raised Yusuf. Allah placed him on a throne. Allah made the same brothers who betrayed him bow before him. Did Yusuf fight for this? Did he argue? Did he spend his nights plotting revenge? No. He waited. He trusted. And Allah brought justice without his effort. This is your story too. What they did to you is not hidden. What they whispered is not ignored. What they planned is not forgotten. Allah has written your vindication, and when the day comes, it will arrive without you lifting a hand. That is the beauty of trusting Allah. You do not have to destroy yourself chasing justice. You do not have to spend your life proving your innocence. You only have to stand firm in patience and let Allah write the ending, because His endings are sweeter than anything you could write yourself. The hardest thing for the wounded heart is silence. You want to speak. You want to defend yourself. You want to shout the truth so loudly that no one can deny it. But silence is not weakness. Silence is surrender to Allah. Silence is saying, Ya Allah, you see what I cannot prove. You know what I cannot say. You hear what I cannot defend, so I leave it in your hands. And what happens when you do that? Allah Himself becomes your defender. He becomes your witness. He becomes the one who clears your name better than you ever could. When Allah defends you, He does it in ways no human could imagine. A secret comes out at the right moment. A lie collapses by itself. A hypocrite slips with their own tongue. A mask falls in front of the very people they tried to deceive. You couldn't have planned it. You couldn't have timed it. You couldn't have forced it. But Allah did it. And when He does, notice something. It comes with precision, not too early, not too late. Just at the moment your heart is ready to see it as mercy, not just pain. This is why justice arrives without your effort, because Allah's plan is cleaner, sharper, and more undeniable than anything you could achieve by yourself. Sometimes you want to go and confront them, but Allah whispers to your soul, stay still. Let me show you what you cannot. Sometimes you want to gather evidence, but Allah whispers, I already recorded it all. Nothing escapes my book. Sometimes you want to expose them to others, but Allah whispers, do not dirty your hands. I will make the truth speak without you. And so you wait. And waiting feels like burning. But what you don't see is that while you are waiting, Allah is preparing. He is preparing the stage. He is preparing the witnesses. He is preparing the exact circumstances that will make the exposure undeniable. And when it happens, you realize why He made you wait. Because if it came earlier, people wouldn't believe you. If it came earlier, you might not have been strong enough to handle it. If it came earlier, it might have destroyed you instead of freeing you. Justice is not just about truth being known. It's about truth being known at the right time. And that right time is only known to Allah. Look at the story of Musa alayhi salam. He fled from Egypt, a fugitive. He was wronged. He was hunted. He was alone. For years, Pharaoh looked like the victor. For years, Musa looked like the one in shame. But when Allah wrote the time, justice came. The sea split. The oppressor drowned. And the wronged was vindicated. Could Musa have done that by himself? Could he have forced that justice with his own hands? Never. It was Allah's timing. It was Allah's justice. It was Allah proving, justice belongs to me, not you. So, in your story, don't think you are forgotten. Don't think your silence is wasted. Don't think your patience is weakness. It is building something you cannot see yet. And one day, justice will arrive. And it will arrive so perfectly that you will whisper, Ya Allah, this is better than anything I could have imagined. Because when Allah clears your name, He clears it in front of the right eyes. When Allah exposes your enemy, He exposes them at the right time. When Allah brings justice, He brings it in a way that protects your dignity, not shames it. That is why justice by your hands will always feel incomplete. But justice by Allah's hands will always feel whole. The truth is this: the greatest vindication comes not when you fight for yourself, but when Allah fights for you. You see, people can twist your words. They can manipulate the story. They can paint you as the villain while wearing the mask of innocence. And if you argue, you look defensive. If you shout, you look guilty. If you fight back, they use your fight against you. But when Allah steps in, none of that matters, because the exposure doesn't come from your mouth. It doesn't come from your hands. It doesn't come from your effort. It comes from their own cracks, their own slips, their own actions. And when that happens, the world sees. They see the truth without you lifting a finger. They see the lies unravel by themselves. They see the betrayer collapse under their own betrayal. This is justice without your effort. This is justice without your exhaustion. This is justice that arrives like rain from the sky, sudden, cleansing, undeniable. And here's the most beautiful part. When justice comes from Allah, it heals as it reveals. It does not just expose them, it frees you. It does not just break their mask, it lifts your chest. It does not just silence their lies, it gives your heart a voice. You realize, I never needed to defend myself. Allah was defending me all along. And that realization is sweeter than any victory you could have claimed by yourself. Think of Maryam, alayha salam. When she returned with Isa, the people accused her. They mocked her. They said cruel words. She stayed silent. She didn't argue. She didn't scream. She didn't waste herself trying to prove her innocence. Instead, Allah made a newborn child speak in her defense. Isa alayhi salam spoke from the cradle, and the truth became undeniable. Could Maryam have done that herself? Could she have silenced the crowd with her own words? No. But Allah defended her better than she could have defended herself. This is the beauty of justice that comes from Him. It doesn't just clear your name, it elevates it. It doesn't just silence your enemies, it honors you. It doesn't just end the lie, it writes your story as proof of Allah's power. And when that happens in your life, remember, it was never your fight. It was never your battle. It was always Allah's plan. That is why He says in the Qur'an, and sufficient is Allah as a disposer of affairs. 4:281. Do you hear the comfort in that? You don't need to carry the burden of revenge. You don't need to carry the pressure of proving yourself. You don't need to carry the heaviness of fighting battles that were never yours. Leave it to Him. Because He writes justice with precision, He writes justice with wisdom. He writes justice with love for the wronged and wrath for the oppressor. So tonight, whisper this to your heart. I don't need to fight to be seen. I don't need to argue to be believed. I don't need to expose anyone to be safe. My justice is already written, and it will arrive not by my hands, but by Allah's. And when it does, you will cry tears of relief. Not because you proved them wrong, not because you were finally believed, but because you'll see that Allah never left you, not for a single moment. Their fall was written before their rise. Arrogance always looks powerful in the beginning. It looks unstoppable. It looks untouchable. It looks like it will last forever. But arrogance is never strength. It is only delay before collapse. Allah says in the Quran, indeed, Allah does not like those who are arrogant and boastful. 4:36. This is not just a statement. It is a warning. It is a prophecy written into the story of every arrogant soul. Their fall is written before their rise ever begins. Look at Pharaoh. He called himself a god. He drowned children. He enslaved people. He mocked believers. His rise was loud. His rise was terrifying. His rise looked endless. But his fall was already written. Before he ever stood on a throne, Allah had already decreed his death in the sea. When Musa alayhis salam was still a baby floating in a basket, Pharaoh's fall was already sealed. Think about that. The oppressor was laughing, but his end was already waiting for him. This is the law of Allah. No arrogance lasts. No pride survive. No one who walks on earth as if they own it escapes the decree. So when you see someone rise through lies, don't panic. When you see someone rise through betrayal, don't fear. When you see someone rise through arrogance, don't lose hope. Because their rise is not a blessing, it is rope. And the longer Allah gives them, the harder their fall will be. It might look like Allah is honoring them, but in reality, He is only delaying their fall so that when it comes, no one can deny it. Sometimes you watch them climb, and it hurts. You think, why are they winning while I'm suffering? You think, why does the liar look victorious while the honest is bleeding? But you are only seeing the surface. You are only seeing the chapter of their rise. You are not seeing that the ending is already written. And the ending is this: arrogance collapses, always, without exception. Their rise is temporary. Their fall is permanent. Think of Qur'an, the man of wealth. He walked with arrogance. His treasures were so heavy that even keys to his storage were difficult to carry. He thought his wealth was his own doing. He thought no one could touch him. He thought his rise was forever. But the earth swallowed him. His fall was written before his rise. So what about the arrogant in your life? The one who lied about you, the one who mocked you, the one who betrayed your trust, the one who used their arrogance to step on you and rise higher. Do you think their story is different? Do you think their end will be safe? Do you think their rise will be permanent? Never, because Allah's law never changes. Arrogance writes its own destruction. It carries the seeds of its downfall inside itself. The louder the pride, the harder the fall. And when that fall comes, you will see something beautiful. Allah will let you witness it, not because you need revenge, but because He wants you to know that your patience was not wasted. He wants you to see that your tears were not ignored. He wants you to remember that arrogance never wins against Him. So tonight, when you lie in bed replaying their laughter, remember this: their laughter is temporary. Their power is temporary. Their victory is temporary. But their fall is already written. It was written before their rise. When someone rises on lies, their throne is made of sand. It looks tall. It looks strong. But the tide of Allah's justice is already moving. And when it arrives, their entire kingdom crumbles in seconds. You may ask yourself, but why does Allah let them rise at all? Why let the arrogant laugh? Why let the liar enjoy their stage? Why let the betrayer walk proudly while the betrayed suffers in silence? The answer is in Allah's wisdom. He lets them rise so their fall is undeniable. He lets them rise so their exposure is clear. He lets them rise so no one can claim ignorance when they collapse. If Pharaoh died unknown, his story would not be a sign. If Qur'an lost his wealth quietly, his arrogance would not have been exposed. If the hypocrites of Medina were silent nobodies, the Qur'an would not have named them as eternal examples. But Allah let them rise. He let them taste temporary power. He let them walk proudly, so that when they fell, their arrogance would serve as a warning until the end of time. And this is what you must remember: their rise is not victory. It is a stage for their fall. It is a platform for their exposure. It is a rope that Allah extends not to save them, but to tighten around their own necks. Every arrogant soul writes their own ending. The liar cannot stop lying. The betrayer cannot stop betraying. The hypocrite cannot stop performing. And every lie, every betrayal, every performance is another brick in the wall of their downfall. You don't need to push it. You don't need to pull it. You don't need to spend your nights plotting their collapse. Allah has already written it. Their fall is as certain as the setting Sunday. Think about the storms. They roar loudly. They tear through cities. They look unstoppable, but eventually they break apart. The skies clear. The silence returns. Because no storm lasts forever. This is arrogance. Loud, terrifying, but temporary. And what about you, the one who suffered under their arrogance? Allah is not blind to your pain, your tears at night, your confusion in silence, your humiliation in front of others. All of it was written too, and it was not wasted. It was stored as proof against them. It was stored as reward for you. It was stored as a reason for Allah to honor you when the arrogant finally falls. Because here's the secret. Their rise was written to test you, but their fall was written to honor you. Their rise was written to see if you trust Allah, but their fall was written to show that Allah always keeps His promise. So, don't fear their power. Don't let their laughter echo in your soul. Don't replay their victory as if it will last forever. It won't. It never does. The higher they climb, the harder they fall. The louder they boast, the deeper they sink. The more they mock, the faster they crumble. And when that moment comes, when their mask is shattered, when their throne collapses, when their arrogance eats itself alive, you will see the wisdom of Allah. You will whisper, Ya Allah, you wrote their fall before they ever rose, and you wrote my protection before they ever harmed me. This is the law of Allah. This is the promise of the Qur'an. This is the destiny of every arrogant soul. Every rise looks permanent when you are at the bottom. Every throne looks unshakable when you are looking up. Every arrogant laugh feels endless when you are still carrying wounds. But Allah wants you to remember something. No rise escapes His decree. No throne lasts forever. No laugh drowns out His justice. He writes their ending before their beginning. He carves their fall into their rise. He hides collapse inside their pride. Look at the story of Iblis. He was honored among the angels. He was elevated in worship. He was respected for his devotion. But arrogance entered his heart. He refused to bow to Adam. And in that moment, his rise collapsed. His arrogance became his chain. His pride became his prison. His fall was written before his rebellion. Do you see the pattern? Every arrogant soul walks the same path. They rise, they boast, they mock, they step on others, but every step forward is a step closer to their fall. And here's the whisper Allah wants to plant in your heart. Their story is not your story. Don't envy their rise. Don't fear their power. Don't waste your nights replaying their victories, because their victories are not real. They are shadows. They are illusions. They are temporary flashes before the fire consumes them. You, on the other hand, are walking a slower path, a quieter path, a humbler path. It feels small, it feels hidden, it feels overlooked, but it is safe, it is steady. It is written with light, not arrogance, and light never collapses the way pride does. So when you see them laughing, whisper to your heart, this is not forever. When you see them walking tall, whisper, this is not real strength. When you see them mocking, whisper, this is their rope, this is their test. And soon, it will pull them down. Because Allah has promised, do not think Allah is unaware of what the wrongdoers do. He only delays them until a day when eyes will stare in horror. Qur'an 14:42. That delay is not safety. That delay is not protection. That delay is only fuel for a fire they are walking into. And when the fall comes, it is not just about them. It is about you too, because Allah lets you see it. He lets you witness their collapse. He lets you understand that your patience was not wasted. He lets you feel, deep in your chest, that your trust was not in vain. The fall of the arrogant is the rise of the patient. The exposure of the proud is the healing of the wronged. The collapse of the hypocrite is the comfort of the believer. So do not fear their rise. Fear only losing trust in Allah, because their story is written, and so is yours. And when the day comes, you will look back and whisper, Ya Allah, I see it now. Their rise was only a stage. Their fall was already waiting for them. And all along, you were protecting me. Public exposure, private healing. There is a moment that only Allah can create. A moment where everything hidden becomes clear. A moment where the one who betrayed you can no longer hide behind smiles. A moment where the people who doubted you finally see the truth with their own eyes. That moment is public exposure, but what it creates for you is private healing. Because let's be honest, what hurts the most is not just the betrayal itself. It is the loneliness that follows it. It is the way others believe the liar instead of you. It is the way your silence is mistaken for guilt. It is the way you carry the weight while they laugh freely. You cry at night. You pray for justice. You ask, Ya Allah, will they always get away with this? And Allah whispers, be patient. I am preparing your healing. Then the day arrives. And it doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't come with announcement. It comes naturally, silently, beautifully. The same mouth that lied slips in front of everyone. The same hand that betrayed exposes itself. The same arrogance that mocked you spills its own secrets. And suddenly, their mask falls in public. And you don't even have to fight. You don't even have to speak. You don't even have to prove yourself, because Allah Himself becomes your defender. He makes the cracks visible. He makes the truth undeniable. He makes the liar expose themselves. And in that moment, something shifts inside you. The burden you carried for so long begins to lift. The wound that kept bleeding finally begins to close. The whispers in your head that said, no one believes you, finally become silent. This is what Allah does. He heals you in private by exposing them in public, not to humiliate you, not to disgrace you, but to free you. Because how long could you carry it alone? How long could you keep your silence while they spread lies? How long could you walk with the weight of proving yourself? Allah knew it was breaking you. So He wrote exposure not as punishment, but as medicine. It tastes bitter at first, but it heals in the end. And notice something beautiful. Allah times it perfectly, not when you are weak, not when you would collapse under the weight, but when your heart is strong enough to receive it as healing, not just as pain. That's why it often feels delayed. That's why you wait longer than you wanted. Because Allah was strengthening your heart. He was building your patience. He was shaping your reliance on Him, so that when the truth came out, you wouldn't just say, finally. You would say, Ya Allah, you never left me. And that realization is healing. Because healing is not just the absence of pain. It is the presence of understanding. It is when your heart finally connects the dots and whispers. What I called loss was actually protection. What I called humiliation was actually honor. What I called delay was actually mercy. That whisper is what Allah wants you to reach. That is why He exposes them publicly, so you can heal privately. Because imagine if exposure never happened. Imagine if they always looked innocent. Imagine if no one ever saw their lies. You would carry the weight forever. You would wonder if you were wrong. You would blame yourself endlessly. But when Allah tears the curtain, you breathe, not because you wanted their shame, not because you enjoyed their downfall, but because you finally see you were not crazy. You were not paranoid. You were not imagining. You were simply patient until Allah showed the truth. And that moment heals you. It heals deeper than any apology could. It heals stronger than any defense could. It heals because it comes from Allah. When Allah exposes them, it is not only for you. It is also for those who doubted you, for those who looked at you with suspicion, for those who whispered, maybe they are exaggerating, maybe they are guilty, maybe the liar is telling the truth. Allah removes all the maybes. He makes the truth so clear that no one can deny it. The same people who questioned you now question them. The same eyes that looked down on you now look down on them. The same mouths that whispered against you now fall silent. And you? You don't even need to say, "I told you so." You don't even need to demand an apology. Your vindication is in the silence itself. Your healing is in the fact that Allah Himself defended you better than you could. This is why exposure is so powerful. It does what your words could never do. It does what your anger could never achieve. It does what your tears could never convince. Because human defense is fragile. It can be ignored. It can be twisted. It can be doubted. But divine exposure is undeniable. It cannot be erased. It cannot be spun. It cannot be silenced. And this is where your healing begins. Not when they fall. Not when people finally believe you. But when you realize you never needed them to believe you in the first place. You only needed Allah. Your healing begins the moment you whisper, "Ya Allah, you saw me when no one else did." Your healing begins the moment you cry, not because of pain, but because of relief. Your healing begins the moment you realize every second you spent in silence, Allah was building a defense louder than words. This is why patience is so hard, but so worth it. Patience feels like bleeding. Patience feels like being buried alive. Patience feels like suffocating in a room full of lies. But patience is also the soil where justice grows. It is the ground where truth takes root. And when the plant finally breaks through the surface, its fruits are sweeter than anything you imagined. Allah exposes them publicly, but He heals you privately. Because healing doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need validation from people. It needs stillness. It needs quiet whispers. It needs the intimate reminder, you were never alone. I was with you. I saw everything. And I defended you in ways you didn't even realize. That is the kind of healing only Allah can give. And here's something beautiful. When Allah heals you, He does not just remove the pain, He transforms it. The same wound that once made you cry now becomes a lesson that makes you wise. The same betrayal that once broke you now becomes a story that makes you stronger. The same exposure that once embarrassed you now becomes a testimony of Allah's justice. This is why public exposure is never about revenge. It is about release. It is about Allah removing chains from your heart. It is about Him letting you walk lighter than you did before. So when you see them exposed, don't rejoice in their pain. Rejoice in your healing. Because their exposure is not proof of their weakness, it is proof of Allah's mercy to you. Mercy that says, I will not let you carry this burden forever. Mercy that says, I will show the world the truth so you don't have to bleed in silence anymore. Mercy that says, your heart deserves peace and I will give it to you. And when that peace arrives, you will realize something incredible. The healing you feel is not from their downfall. It is from Allah's nearness. It is from knowing that the same Lord who split the sea for Musa the same Lord who raised Yusuf from a prison to a throne, the same Lord who exposed the hypocrites in Medina, that same Lord defended you. And what could be sweeter healing than that? There is a wisdom in why Allah lets their mask fall in public, because if it fell only in private, you might still doubt yourself. You might still question if it was real. You might still wonder if it was only in your head. But when it happens in front of others, your heart can finally breathe. You no longer carry the weight of proving yourself. You no longer live in the shadow of their lies. You no longer drown in the fear that no one will ever know. Allah makes sure others see it too, not to embarrass you, not to make a show, but to free you from the prison of doubt. Because healing comes when you realize, it was never me, it was always them, and Allah has made it clear. This is why exposure feels so heavy at first, but so light afterward. Heavy because it reopens the wound. Light because it closes it forever. Think of it like this: a thorn stuck deep inside your skin. It hurts. It bleeds. You cover it, but it keeps digging deeper. Then one day, it is pulled out. The pulling stings, but after that sting, the healing begins. Exposure is that sting. Healing is what follows. And in that healing, something else happens. Allah replaces shame with honor. The same people who once doubted you now respect your patience. The same people who once ignored your pain now admire your strength. The same people who once followed the liar now stand beside you. But here's the most beautiful part. Your dignity is not restored by people, it is restored by Allah. Because if people honored you without Allah's decree, it would not last. But when Allah decides to honor you, no one can strip it away. And this is the quiet miracle of public exposure and private healing. The one who mocked you is silent. The one who doubted you is speechless. The one who betrayed you is revealed. And you walk away lighter, not bitter, not vengeful, just free. Because Allah's justice is not about revenge, it is about restoration, restoring your peace, restoring your dignity, restoring your trust in Him. So the next time you feel the sting of betrayal, remember this whisper: I will heal you in private by exposing them in public. And when I do, you will know that I never left your side. And when that moment comes, you will not just say, the truth came out. You will say, Ya Allah, you heard me when no one else did. You saw me when no one else cared. You defended me when no one else believed. And that was all I ever needed. That realization that Allah Himself was always on your side is the sweetest healing your soul will ever taste. Trust, such a small word, yet it feels heavier than mountains when you're carrying betrayal in your chest. How do you trust again when people lied? How do you trust again when friends became strangers? How do you trust again when even your own family turned their back? The answer is simple, but not easy. You don't put your trust in people. You put it in Allah. Because people's eyes are limited. People's hearts are fickle. People's promises are fragile. But Allah, He sees what you don't. He knows what you don't. He protects when you can't. And His promise never breaks. This is the golden whisper Allah wants you to hold. Don't fear what is hidden. Whisper instead, Ya Allah, you see what I cannot. Protect me from what I do not know. Every betrayal you faced was not to harden you, it was to redirect your trust. Every mask that fell was not to make you bitter, it was to make you wiser. Every heartbreak was not to destroy you, it was to teach you. People are not the place of your ultimate trust, because trust in people will always come with cracks. Even the best of them are human. Even the most sincere can slip. Even the purest can make mistakes. But trust in Allah has no cracks. It is perfect. It is whole. It is unshakable. Think of Ibrahim alayhi salam when he was thrown into the fire. The flames rose higher than the walls. The crowd laughed with arrogance. The heat was enough to melt metal. But Ibrahim did not place his trust in the ropes around him. He did not place his trust in the people standing by. He whispered, "Hasbi Allah, wa ni'mal wakil, Allah is enough for me, and the best disposer of affairs." And what did Allah do? He commanded the fire, "Be coolness and peace upon Ibrahim." The fire that should have killed him became his safety. This is the power of trust. Now, think of Maryam alayha salam, alone, accused, carrying a child without a husband. The whispers were louder than her own heartbeat. She could not defend herself. She could not explain herself. So she stayed silent. And Allah made a newborn child speak in her defense. Because when you trust Allah, He defends you in ways you could never imagine. This is why the golden whisper is trust. Because trust is not just belief. It is surrender. It is whispering, "Ya Allah, I can't carry this. Take it from me. I don't know what's behind that door. Protect me. I don't know what's in their hearts. Guard me. I don't know what tomorrow brings. Guide me." And Allah responds to whispers like that. He moves mountains you cannot see. He closes doors that looked beautiful but were poison inside. He opens paths that looked blocked but were hidden keys to your future. Trust is not weakness. It is the strongest shield you will ever hold. Because when you trust people, you lean on bones that can break. But when you trust Allah, you lean on the one who never dies. Trust is not built in comfort. It is built in fire. It is built in storms. It is built in the nights when you cry and no one hears you. It is built in the mornings when you wake up with nothing but Allah to hold on to. That is why betrayal had to happen, not to break you, but to teach you where real safety lies. If people had never failed you, you might have trusted them like they were gods. If friends had never betrayed you, you might have leaned on them instead of Allah. If family had never disappointed you, you might have believed your protection came from blood, not from your Lord. So Allah allowed it, not because He hates you, not because He abandoned you, but because He loves you too much to let your trust be misplaced. Trust is a sacred gift. Allah does not want it wasted on masks. Allah does not want it poured into hands that secretly drop it. Allah does not want it tied to people who will leave. He wants it tied to Him, the one who never leaves, the one who never betrays, the one who never breaks His promise. When you finally place your trust in Allah, something changes inside you. The fear of people fades. The fear of loss shrinks. The fear of betrayal disappears. Because you realize, if Allah is with me, nothing can harm me. If Allah protects me, no one can destroy me. If Allah writes for me, no one can erase it. This is the golden whisper. Ya Allah, I trust you more than I trust what I see. I trust your plan more than my pain. I trust your wisdom more than my understanding. And when you whisper this, your heart breathes again. Because trust is air for the soul. Without it, you suffocate in paranoia. With it, you walk freely, even in darkness. Think of Yusuf alayhi salam in prison. He was innocent. He was betrayed. He was forgotten. Years passed, and still no justice came. But Yusuf didn't panic. He didn't fight to prove himself. He didn't waste away in despair. He whispered his trust to Allah. And when the time was right, Allah raised him from a prison to a throne. Did Yusuf's effort free him? No. It was Allah's timing and Allah's justice. This is what trust does. It carries you through years of silence until the moment of honor arrives. So do not fear the silence. Do not fear the delay. Do not fear the darkness. Trust turns silence into preparation. Trust turns delay into mercy. Trust turns darkness into light. And when you whisper trust to Allah, He whispers back to your heart, I am enough for you. You don't need to see. You don't need to know. You only need to trust. That is the golden whisper. That is the shield that no betrayal can break. Trust is the final bridge between pain and peace. Without it, you stand forever on the side of fear. With it, you cross into safety that no storm can shake. Every prophet carried this whisper. Nuh alayhi salam, building a ship when people mocked him, whispered trust. Ibrahim alayhi salam, leaving his family in a barren desert, whispered trust. Musa alayhi salam, standing at the edge of the sea with Pharaoh behind him, whispered trust. Maryam alayhi salam, carrying a child while accused by her people, whispered trust. Our Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in the cave of Thor as enemies searched for him, whispered trust. And in every single story, Allah responded, not always immediately, not always the way they expected, but always better than they imagined. This is why trust is golden. It does not erase hardship, it transforms it. It does not remove the fire, it makes the fire coolness. It does not prevent the sea, it splits the sea. It does not silence the accusers, it makes a baby speak. It does not stop the enemy, it makes a spider's web stronger than an army. And this is what Allah is whispering to you tonight. If you trust me, I will defend you in ways beyond your imagination. So let go of your grip on people. Let go of your fear of their betrayal. Let go of your obsession with controlling outcomes. And hold on to the rope of Allah, because His rope never breaks. Whisper to Him, Ya Allah, I trust you with my name. Defend it when I cannot. I trust you with my heart. Guard it when I am blind. I trust you with my story. Write it better than I could ever write it myself. And He will. He will write it with wisdom. He will write it with justice. He will write it with mercy. Because this is the golden truth. You do not need to understand everything. You do not need to control everything. You only need to trust the one who already does. And when you do, your heart will finally rest. Not because people stopped plotting, not because life became easy, but because you know no plot can harm you when Allah protects you. No betrayal can break you when Allah heals you. No loss can destroy you when Allah is with you. So tonight, let your soul whisper, Ya Allah, I trust you. I trust you with what I know and what I don't. I trust you with what I see and what I can't. I trust you with my wounds, my fears, my story, my future. I trust you, and that is enough. And in that whisper, you will find gold, not in their downfall, not in their exposure, but in your trust, because trust is the whisper that turns pain into peace, betrayal into wisdom, and silence into strength. That is the golden whisper of trust. And as we close tonight, pause for a moment. Think of every laugh that broke you, every whisper that cut you, every doubt that made you question yourself. Now remember this, none of it defined you. Allah was always the one writing your story. He was covering you when they mocked you. He was protecting you when they doubted you. He was raising you when you thought you were falling. The day will come written already when their voices will be silent and your dignity will shine. But on that day, it will not be about them. It will be about you finally realizing, Ya Allah, you loved me when no one else did. You honored me when the world tried to break me. You never left me, not even for a second. So walk forward with peace. Leave their whispers in the past and carry this truth with you tonight. The greatest honor is not in their silence. The greatest honor is in discovering Allah's love and knowing it was always Him.